In 2021, a tragic incident involving a college student highlighted the critical importance of proper key tracking and access control in property management. A 19-year-old by the name of Miya was found bound with black duct tape on her feet, hands, and mouth. Sadly, she was said to have been murdered by a maintenance worker in her apartment community. The tragedy led to the implementation of Miya's Law, a Florida state regulation that requires employees of property management companies to undergo background checks and maintain accurate records of key access. While this regulation originated in Florida, it underscores a common industry practice vital for ensuring resident safety and security. Could you imagine a friend, a coworker, or even a resident? I think it's fair to say access control directly impacts resident safety.
We had a long night.
While crime has no address, residents deserve to feel secure in their living environment. Effective key tracking demonstrates a commitment to prioritizing their well-being and serves as valuable evidence in liability management and security incident investigations. Plus, it ensures that maintenance requests and other resident concerns can be promptly addressed, contributing to overall resident satisfaction. If you've never found yourself in a situation where a resident is locked out of their apartment and the office copy of the key is nowhere to be found, consider yourself lucky. It's not a good feeling. So how should we go about implementing key tracking? Firstly, anytime you're releasing a key for an occupied apartment, be sure the resident is aware that someone will be entering their apartment. Try to send an email at least 24 to 48 hours prior to entering. The earlier you can communicate, the better. If there's an emergency and you aren't able to give sufficient notice, for example, a bursted pipe, then try calling or texting the resident in addition to the email. The email is the paper trail. The call or text shows that you made substantial efforts to inform the resident. To effectively manage internal key access or staffing access, it's best to utilize key tracking systems equipped with features such as fingerprint access or ID codes. These systems enable the tracking of user access and possession and give managers the ability to generate audit reports to promptly identify missing keys. Key tracking should be an ongoing practice with continuous monitoring and auditing. The goal is to ensure accountability and minimize the risk of lost or misplaced keys. As for external key tracking, when releasing a key to a vendor or resident, a key log is recommended. A key log is a form with columns for the key holder's name, the date, the time, apartment number, purpose for checking out the key, a signature from the key holder, and the initials of the team member releasing the key, i.e. you. It may sound silly, but don't forget to confirm that the vendor or guest has authorization or has been scheduled to complete work in that particular unit, especially if it's an occupied apartment. You may even need to check with your team. Once confirmed, request a photo ID from the guest. Make sure it's the person you're expecting and that the photo on the ID matches the person standing in front of you. Then have them fill out the key log. You'll want to hold on to their ID until the keys are returned. Also, a good rule of thumb is to only release 1 or 2 keys to a vendor at a time. Of course, during turn, you may need to make an exception, but generally speaking, guard your keys. The more keys you have checked out, the higher the risk of having keys misplaced or lost. And keys should not be checked out overnight. Make a habit of reviewing your key log multiple times a day, especially near the time of closing. You also want to conduct periodic audits of the key log to identify any discrepancies of missing keys promptly. And maintain up-to-date records in the key log, documenting any changes or updates as necessary. For instance, if a vendor returns a key while another vendor comes in asking for the exact same key, be sure that the key is returned to you. The process still applies. Confirm the vendor was actually scheduled, the key log is to be completed, and you need a photo ID submitted before releasing the key to the next vendor. Now, let's say a resident is locked out and needs to borrow their apartment key. The process is pretty much the same. The resident would leave their ID with you and fill out the key log. Then you would release the key to them and hold on to their ID until they return the key. However, given the situation, residents that are locked out may not have their wallet or photo ID. In this case, You would need to verify the resident's identity by asking them verification questions such as, what is your date of birth or the last 4 digits of your social security number? This should go without saying, but unless you receive the vendor or resident's ID and they sign the key log, you should not give them keys. Another option after you've confirmed their authorization is to escort them to the apartment and unlock the door for them. However, if the apartment is occupied, someone from the staff should remain with the vendor. If vacant, just be sure to lock the apartment once the vendor has completed their work. And finally, if a resident is away and would like to provide access to a guest, you will need written authorization from the resident. An email sent from the email address associated with their resident profile should suffice. The email should state that the resident is giving you permission to release a copy of their apartment key to the first and last name of the guest on said date. And don't forget to add a copy of the email to their file or account. This is super important. You don't want to release keys to the wrong person, and you need a paper trail of authorization. Once you've received authorization, request a photo ID from the guest. Make sure it's the person you're expecting and that the photo on the ID matches the person standing in front of you. Then have them fill out the key log. You'll want to hold on to their ID until the keys are returned. Now, while on the subject of keys, I know we all love promo items, but keychains and lanyards with your community name on it probably aren't a good idea. If a resident loses an apartment key with your community's branded keychain attached, it makes it very easy for someone to test each apartment door and gain access. In conclusion, effective key tracking and access control are essential for safeguarding resident safety and satisfaction and should not be taken lightly. I hope this video was helpful. I'll see you in the next video.